we covered the basics of not only about, before we get into internet incomes, how to increase your income, how to work less and earn more, how to get leverage, how to be an entrepreneur even if you work for an organization, or if you're your own entrepreneur and you're creating your own organization, same principles apply. And if you come from that idea, the 80-20 rule, let's focus on the 20% that produces most of the results, so we become more efficient. So then when we move into, say, let's want to build what the next step is, building automated income. So we're changing our existing income streams to be more productive, but now we want to build automated incomes, i.e. internet-based incomes, that will increase our lifestyle with the ultimate goal to get the $5,000 a month passive, or $4,000 or $5,000 a month passive or semi-passive income, because that can give us a millionaire's lifestyle effectively if we're smart with it without having to become a millionaire. Okay? But if you can make $5,000 a month, do you think you could then make $10,000 a month, yes or no? It's just then extending what you do. Once you've got the recipe, then you roll it out. So that actually increasing your income, the first $5,000 a month is probably the hardest. The second and the third $5,000 after that actually gets easy, because it's just, if you've got a system that's working and you're generating that profit, all you then have to do is generate more leads at the front end, which will increase it at the back end. We'll walk through with that, how to go about doing that. Now, the common thing a lot of people have, I'll share a story. I have a friend that moved from Sydney to live in Noosa many years ago, probably about, maybe probably longer, 5 or 6 years ago. He moved to Noosa because he wanted to have a better quality of life. He was a chef, working in Sydney, earning decent income, but chefs don't get paid that much. Is that true? In comparison to most careers, they don't get that much money. So he moved to Noosa, and he got into investment property. I gave him some ideas of what was possible, and he made a lot of money out of, he probably made $300,000 or $400,000 in the space of a couple of years, because I got him motivated. He went out and bought a property off the plan. Back this is before the property boom, and doubled in value, made some good money. And then he was sort of more open to going, hang on, maybe I should do some other things. So he was asking for some help, and I suggested to him, I said, well, there's other things you could do. You could also build internet incomes and things like that and expand your income, because he was complaining how even though he'd made money in property, he still had to work his job and slaving away at a restaurant. And it's like he wanted some freedom. And so I'm just trying to get him to entertain some new ideas. And I said, well, it's up to you, but why don't you actually build an internet business? And he's like, well, what would I sell? And I said, well, I asked him a question. I said, is there any chefs in the world that make more money than you? Now, he was a fairly good chef, but so I asked him this question. I said, well, I want you to think, what would you sell, what's your product or service? I said, before you go into that, I want you to think about this. In other words, success we've learned today is to find models, people that produce the result and model them, okay? Effectively copy them, but model it. Take the key benefits, adjust it to our personality, who we are, and replicate it. So I said, you're a chef. I said, is there chefs in the world that earn more money than you? Yes or no? Is there a... Yeah. And I said, think of some. Tell me, who's a chef in the world particularly that makes more money than my friend that's a chef? Gordon Ramsay. Who else? One that doesn't swear. Actually, they both swear, don't they? Jamie Oliver, the naked chef. Make sense? Jamie Oliver, the naked chef, makes a hell of a lot more money than my friend is a chef. But they effectively do the same thing. They're both chefs. So you should be thinking, why does he make more money? Because what I'm trying to get you to is to think through this story about yourself. Are you being my friend that is a chef, so to speak, or an accountant, or a doctor, or a nurse, or a school teacher, or whatever your career is, but not making the money that the naked chef is making? Okay? So tell me, yell out the answers. Why does Jamie Oliver make more money than the average chef and my friend that's a chef? Is it because he works harder, yes or no? He probably doesn't work harder. He probably has a good work ethic, but necessarily not harder. So there's a combination of different things. So somebody saying, jot these things down, marketing. Would you say he's a better marketer? Of who? Of himself. So he probably looks at himself as a product or service and markets himself better than my friend. Okay, which is pretty much what we've been talking about here today. What else? He's a creator. Okay, creates, what does he create? Creates charities, but where does he generate his revenue from? Books is one, yep. He adds more value, true. Does he add more value than my friend the chef? Now, even if you like Jamie Oliver or not, you've heard of him. Is that true? Have you heard of My Friend the Chef? You don't even know his name. You haven't even, he hasn't added value to you. Why? Unless you go to a restaurant in Noosa and you know which restaurant he works in. Even then, you won't even recognize the value he's added because you don't even know who he is. So the point is, his capacity to add value is very limited. But what is the biggest difference now? Jamie Oliver has books, is that true? What else does he have? TV shows, restaurants, cookware, etc. So he has a whole range of things that he's created that he sells. So it's not just himself he's selling, but his brand of what he's selling. But the key distinction is this. The difference in income. My friend, let's say he's making $50,000 a year as a chef. Probably a little bit more these days, but Jamie Oliver, I don't know how much he makes, but he probably makes anywhere maybe between $5 and $20 million a year, at a guess. He can't live on that, but it's not a bad start. Okay. Now, is he working 200,000 times harder? No, we know that. So there's a good key for some of you too, that thinking hard work is the key to success. He could possibly be working less, couldn't he? Actually, whether he works or not, it makes no difference, does it? Majority of this income, some of it might be active, but I dare say 99% of that income is what? Passive to semi-passive. There's big clues, what we've been talking about here today. And the biggest distinction is, what is my friend selling? He's selling time. He's working per hour. Makes sense? He's selling his time. Jamie Oliver, is he selling his time? Well, in the cases where he is selling his time, let's say he has to appear on a TV show, he's selling his time, but is he getting a lot more? He's certainly getting a lot more leverage on the time he does sell, but most of the time, most of his income, when you buy a Jamie Oliver branded cookware, does he have to be there to sell it to you? No, he'd have the leverage of maybe 1,000 outlets around the world, or 10,000 is selling for him. So their resources, their staff, their capital is working for him to sell that, and he's getting a percentage of that. The difference is he's selling a what? He's selling a result. Is that true? Product or service, effectively a result. So therefore, his income is almost unlimited. Is that true? He could perhaps double to $40 million a year as an example. Much larger, but doesn't require any more time. So the shift in thinking that we've been talking about this morning, and now going to relate that to why, how we do this on the internet, etc. There's a definitive shift there. But you could say they're both chefs. So often people say, well, what product or service will I have? The first place to look at is yourself first. What skills do you already have that you could better leverage, better exploit? Jamie Oliver may not even be any better chef than my friend. He's not 200,000 times better if he is. He might be marginally better, or they might be actually equal as chefs, as far as being able to prepare food and make a meal. So they could have the same skill set. So I'm suggesting here right now, there is people that are not as smart as you, that are perhaps dumber than some of you, and a hell of a lot richer. Do you realize that? That should make you mad. There is people out there that are not as smart as you, that are a hell of a lot richer than you. That should make you mad. But they're doing things in a slightly different way and getting a better result. Now, the thing that annoys us most is we're academics and went to university for 3 or 6 years and we were told that was the key to success. And then we see people that dropped out of school then become multi-millionaires. It just doesn't correlate, does it? But often the skill set or things has got nothing to do with academics and got nothing to do with intelligence. If intelligence was the key to becoming wealthy, then there'll be a hell of a lot more people that would be wealthier. Does it make sense? It's often not intelligence. It is something, common sense. But common sense, but also strategy. They're doing something remarkably different. Both chefs, very big difference in outcome. So I suggested to my friend, so he said the Naked Chef, and I said, so what can you learn from that? What does he do differently? And he started going to his limiting belief pattern. He would go, yeah, and I suggested maybe you could start a website. I said, think about this. Could you build a website part-time? Do you love being a chef? And he goes, yeah, it's my passion. But I said, I guess it gets a bit mundane at times and you're a bit over it at times. But I said, your passion is to cook, and that part you like. What you don't like is you have to work in a restaurant and slave away. That's the part you don't like. So I said, you already have a skill set. How can you better leverage that skill set to increase your income? I said, here's your worst case scenario. You could start a website. You could learn about internet marketing. You could create yourself a product or service around your skill set. I said, have you ever wanted to write a cookbook? He said, I've always had an idea to write a cookbook. I've just never got around to it. Once again, he's too busy making a living to actually get rich. So I said, well, why don't you actually make those things happen? I said, even if you don't know how to write a cookbook, other people will do it for you, okay? Or you could do it. I said, if you treat it even as a hobby, part-time, you actually had a video of you being videoed to cook and explain how to cook. Because I said, there's a lot of people out there that actually think they're intelligent but have no idea how to cook a meal, including myself, okay? I have no idea how to cook. It's a skill set I haven't learned. And why don't I know how to cook? Because I've never put the time and effort in to learn. I've always delegated, outsourced, okay? So who can relate to that? Okay, who's willing to admit that you can't cook? Who can't cook in the room? Okay? Who can cook? A lot of people, okay. So the point being, I said there's people out there that don't have the skill set that you could reach. So choose your target market. So here's, as I share this with you, think about this. And the story, by the way, is not about my friend. This story is about who? Yourself. So I said, what you'd want to do is choose a target market. So choose a target market in your product or service. And then who would you want to sell the product to? When you ask people in their business who they want to sell the product to, what's the general answer? Everyone. That's not correct though, is it? That's a sign of a failed business straight away. You want to sell to everyone. Be something for everyone. It's not going to happen. You're not going to sell to everyone, nor would you want to sell to everyone. You want to have, jot this down, you want to have a target market. You want to target your market. I said, let me think of some ideas what I would do. I know there's some target markets. I said, there's probably a lot of bachelors out there today that have no idea how to cook that you could create a DVD on, 7 easy steps to be a great cook as a bachelor. The lessons your mother should have taught you but never did. Okay? The lessons perhaps you never paid attention to. Whatever, create something, marketing, targeted market, and create something for that. I said, look, how much capital do you need to sit in front of a webcam or have someone with a video camera, just a basic video camera these days, to record and create a product? How much? Pretty much nothing. Everyone's got a video, handy cam and stuff like that. I said, you don't have to be perfect. I said, you don't even have to you should be doing this for fun. It's something you always want to create. I mean, what's the worst case scenario? You have some fun, you create some DVDs, make them humorous, you write a book, and you show your grandkids one day what you did, okay? Worst case, it's cost you nothing other than your time, minimal capital, and it could be a hobby in the side you actually enjoy doing because you're passionate about cooking. You can actually, if you're the only person that watches it, who cares, okay? So your worst case scenario, so what I'm doing here is in to highlight what's the worst case scenario. What's the worst case scenario? Nothing, you can have fun, treat it as your hobby. Now, if you make any money out of it, that's a bonus. So you see if you're coming from that attitude, that mindset, you're setting yourself up for success. You can't really fail. Who's following what I'm saying here? But what it sets up for is getting to actually just think about taking action, because most people won't. So here's what comes up. He goes, yeah, but it's just not me. I can't see myself doing that. That's all right for Jamie Oliver, all right for other people, but it's just not me. Jot this down. Identity. Your identity will determine your income. Another way to look at this, folks, is this. Your level of income or net worth will very rarely exceed your level of personal development. Would you like me to repeat that? Your level of income or net worth will very rarely exceed your level of personal development and the level of who you see yourself as, your identity. So, and if it does, it'll probably lead to disaster. What do I mean by that? Is there examples in our society of people that have earned outrageous amounts of money well beyond and above their level of personal development? Yes or no? Yell out some names of people that have made a mess of their lives because they earn more income than their level of personal development.
Britney Spears.
Britney Spears would be a classic one. Okay, Michael Jackson. Who, sorry?
Mike Tyson.
Can't hear, sorry.
Mike Tyson.
Oh, Mike Tyson, yes, Mike Tyson. Yes, very good example. Do we have some NRL and AFL stars? Often young people earn a lot of money, well beyond their level of Their financial intelligence, definitely their level of personal development. Rock stars, sports stars, you see that all the time. They have more money than they actually had the ability. So they might have had a talent, but they've had a manager or someone that's built their income up for them and leveraged through that. And it often creates havoc in their life, like Britney Spears and etc. So our level of personal development will very rarely exceed our level of income. So what we want to go to work is this identity thing is part of the 80% mindset that holds a lot of people back. So for him, he was pushing up against the boundaries of who he sees himself as. Most people see themselves as by what job they do. They have a very small, limited identity. Jot this down. Expand your identity and expand your income. If you expand your identity of who you see yourself as, you'll expand your level of income. Make sense? If you have a very small, narrow identity, or only one identity of yourself, you will limit yourself. He saw himself as a chef, but not a chef extraordinaire, not a chef that could write books, not a chef that could create DVDs, not a chef that could impart and make a difference and add a lot of value. He just saw himself as a typical average chef. And as a result, wherever he sees himself as that, he's going to earn the typical average salary of a typical chef. Making sense? Where Jamie Oliver, has his identity of himself grown and expanded? Yes or no? Massively. Where now he's comfortable at that level of success. But if someone said before he reached that level of success in his career, this is what's going to happen, he wouldn't have believed it was possible. So you don't even necessarily have to believe it's possible. You just have to expand and allow the possibilities. In other words, get started and take action. So what stops most people, they don't see themselves as something, they won't even do anything about it. So my friend could have done something about it. But to this day, guess what? He hasn't. He's still complaining about being a chef. Sad, isn't it? When he has equal talent, no doubt, to Jamie Oliver. Jamie Oliver, 1,000 times more successful. Now, if my friend had started on that journey, would he necessarily become as successful as Jamie Oliver? Yes or no? But once again, what if he only achieved 1% of that success? What if all he achieved after, I think this is 4 or 5 years ago now, do you think he was actually really committed and learning about internet marketing? By now he would have figured out a way to make at least some money online over 4 or 5 years? Some of you going, I hope so. You would have thought that obviously would have increased his odds in his favour, definitely that he would have been able to diversify and increase his income streams, yes or no? If you learn about marketing, internet marketing, the answer would be absolutely yes to increase his odds. And what if all he achieved was, say, an online business that was making $1,000 a month on the side? What difference would that make to his life long term? All of a sudden, it gives him confidence and diversity, then he could go into other things, etc. All he's doing is doing the same thing, but he's leveraged himself by making his skill set, his knowledge, available to more people. Because right now, people have to go and see him, not even see him, but go into a restaurant where he works at to get any value from him, and then it's limited. He's actually working harder. So it's got nothing to do with working hard. It's actually working smarter, expanding who he sees himself as, expanding the way that he delivers his skill set to other people. Once he's recorded that or put it in a book, then you, in your own time, can take advantage of that as a consumer, like you do with Jamie Oliver, watch his TV shows, read his books, or buy his stuff as a present for one of your friends. And that adds maybe only a little bit of value. See, to become very successful in a career, make literally millions, if not billions of dollars, you don't have to make a big difference. You just have to make a small difference to a lot of people. Does it make sense? Jamie Oliver has made a small difference to a lot of people. Who's follow what I'm saying here? Just all he's done is created a product or service or something, and boom, he's made it available where an unlimited amount of people can access that. He's done you a favor if you're interested in knowing how to be a cook or be entertained, etc., because you can go and get something, some information off him without having to have him physically stand there in your kitchen and cook you a meal. So he's able to impart something to you if you wanted his product or service. Repeat after me. Something to think about. So before we go into where do we come up with products and ideas, and you're going to get so many strategies on how to create products, if you're going to create products from the beginning, or where you can get other people's products and services, think about the skill set you already have. Some of you already have a skill set. Your lesson and the moral to this story is you're selling it in a way that you physically have to be there, when you don't necessarily have to do that. You could expand that. Okay, same thing. My friend's a chiropractor. He's a retired chiropractor right now. before he was my friend, how I met him, he actually come to one of my seminars. This gentleman was such a cynic, so skeptical. He come to an introductory seminar about 10 years, or less than 9 years ago when I first started. And he was so skeptical that he brought his lawyer with him. Okay, just sit in the seminar and check this out. Okay, he's a good friend today. He made millions and millions of dollars as he learned some of the strategies, got into property, etc., into share renting and things like that. And so become asset rich as well. But he wanted to do more with his career. So I said the same thing. I said, one, as a chiropractor, even though you get paid a lot of money for adjusting people's backs, and you're very good at it, but your income is limited because there's only X amount of hours in the day, only so many people you can see. So you need to get leverage. I said, you look at your I said, you have a skill set. You've built half a dozen successful chiropractors, businesses around the world, in your career. You're coming towards retirement. You probably just want to do some things for fun, but if you just retire and do nothing, you'll be bored. You want to do something. So I said, you have a skill set that how many young chiropractors would love to be able to tap into the experience that you've had in building successful chiropractic businesses and selling them over and over again. You can impart that knowledge in a training and either train people or on a DVD or in a book or in a manual or in some way even on a website, and you could impact and reach more people. Who's following what I'm saying here? Same knowledge, but taking and making it available to a large amount of people. And that's what you want to think about, because everyone has a skill set. If I had to go and do what you do Monday morning in your job, in the beginning it would probably be difficult. For you, piece of cake, unconscious competence. You've been doing it for easy. It's like tying your shoelaces. Don't even have to think about it, true? But when you first did something, it was difficult. There's a lot of other people who would want that information. You need to understand the value of what you already know and how to better leverage that. Now, some of you are going, Jamie, you understand my skill set is not that valuable. I need to, and I don't like what I want to do, so I don't want to build an income around what I do. I just want to find something else. Who can relate to that as well? So some of you may be in that situation. But I just want to give you some food for thought. I think, how do you go about expanding what you're doing things differently? Who is now starting to see how, by doing things differently, rather than just selling your time, you can expand your income? Who's starting to see that point? Okay. So let's look at let's go into internet marketing, how we apply this maybe to internet world. These same principles of marketing, of course, also apply to offline. So I'm going to teach you, when we go through this, I'm going to go back to some offline marketing techniques which you can apply online. Okay, let's look at, well, before we do that, here's what I want you to do. Jot down, when we're talking about identity of yourself, I want you to jot down and expand your identity very quickly before we move on. In other words, who you see yourself as. Because you don't want to be like my friend that trapped himself in his identity. He needed to expand his identity so he could become comfortable achieving more than what he's already achieving. So you can become comfortable at that. Most people are scared of success. They don't realize it, but they're actually scared of success. Why? Because it's uncertain. So think about your identity. Who do you see yourself as now, and how do you expand that identity? I remember doing this process 15 years ago. One of my mentors was challenging me. He said, Jamie, you need to expand your identity, who you see yourself as, if you want to increase your income. And he had me write down things that even weren't true yet, but for me to start to be comfortable with that. I can remember writing down things like, I'm a world-class leading entrepreneur. And my little inner voice was going, you're full of shit. Okay? But he said, write it down anyhow. Write it down so you can grow into something. I'm a best-selling author. I'm a successful investor that makes millions of dollars a year. So I'd write down all these identities of myself. I'm the world's best brother. Okay? World's best son. I had a friend, he went through a divorce. He was doing this exercise about identity, and he put down his identity, I'm the world's best ex-husband. So whatever it is you want to be, like, expand your identity. So in other words, you've got room to grow into that. Okay, jot all those things down. Who you are now and who you can become. So you may not be that person yet, but this is who you're going to grow into. You want to jot this down as well. The strongest need for the human psychology is to remain consistent with your identity. The strongest need in human psychology remain consistent with your identity. So who you see yourself as is who you'll become. If you're a non-smoker, that's your identity. You don't smoke, do you? Only smokers smoke. Does it make sense? Your identity controls your behavior. You may not be a world leading entrepreneur yet, but if you create that as a new identity, how do you start behaving? How does a world leading entrepreneur behave? If you're not a millionaire yet and you're part of your identity, you want to become a millionaire, how does a millionaire behave? It starts to change your behavior, changes who you become. And you become that person and then things show up. Make sense? Very powerful way to change your income. Change your net worth. Make your life more fun, more exciting. Because how would the world's greatest mother behave differently to just another mum? There's a shift in behavior, isn't there? There's a shift in standards. The world's greatest father. The world's greatest sister. All the different roles you have in your life. By creating these new expanded identities, all of a sudden you grow into them, you raise your standards, you hold you to a higher standard. What's this got to do with making money? Everything. Take care of these things, expand your identity. The strategies and the mechanics of making the money become a hell of a lot easier. Ignore these things, and then you have a lot more frustration. Why isn't this working? Why am I not rich yet? As soon as you've done that, turn to the person next to you and just share with them your newfound identities. Who are you now? Go for it, quickly. Okay, now you've expanded your identity. Are you ready now to expand your income? Yes or no? Okay, so take lots of notes. Let's get into some internet marketing strategies. Benefits of an internet business. As I mentioned before, one of the great benefits of the internet business, and those who are already in business will appreciate this, traditional business costs a lot of money and you have a lot of risk. So in the internet world, you have your worst, your downside is you're going to spend some time. Okay? But you have that anyhow, you're spending your time. So especially if you're going to focus on areas that you're passionate about or something you have an interest in. So you're doing it because you're learning or making a difference, and the money should always be a secondary criteria. If you're into things just for the money, you don't care about anything else, well then you'll have a different result. I think, okay? So there's nothing wrong with making money, but I think you'll be more motivated if you're building businesses around things you have an interest in, to learn, to grow, to achieve more, to make a difference, and money should be one of those reasons, not the main reason. Number two is no capital at risk, so your downside, as I mentioned, is low. No overheads. One, if it's a purely internet business, you don't need staff, etc. So if you're not making many sales, at least you're not going broke. Like if you buy a franchise or something, spend $500,000, and you're not making enough money to cover the rent and the overheads, you'll actually not make money, but you'll go broke. You'll lose a lot of money and have at risk. So a lot of people in traditional business are very stressed because of that. Here, don't make any money, well, it's not costing you anything. Number five, successful businesses have automated systems. One of the most successful businesses on the planet is run by a bunch of teenagers. Who can tell me what that is? McDonald's, effectively. Think about it. McDonald's, the same teenagers that won't clean up their bedroom are running a multi-billion-dollar organization. Okay? Why? Because McDonald's has a very effective what? They have very good training systems, automation, etc. So there's a manual for everything. So why do people pay $1 million for a McDonald's franchise when anyone can go out for a fraction of that and start their own hamburger cafe? Yeah. Because one, there's a model there that's working, that's been fine-tuned over 30-odd years, that the success rate of McDonald's franchise is about 97%. Not all of them succeed, but most of them do. Where to start your own business, you don't tap into the branding, the marketing, you have to create everything from scratch, where here you can get the 80% that's working and then maybe just make it one of the best McDonald's as an example. So that's why people pay that sort of money. It's an automated, systemized business that will work ideally without them. The great thing about the internet, though, is it operates 24 hours a day. Massive time leverage for any individual. You can compete with large organizations. As I said, you can have millions of dollars and put into a website. It doesn't guarantee its success. As you saw in the dot-com boom, it's story after story of failed businesses that just thought they could throw money at it and work. And that's why big businesses have had an advantage in traditional business, because they've got more capital. So it's hard for the little guy to compete. On the internet, the capital is more of a level playing field. So right now, and has been for several years, the internet gives the opportunity for the individual. May not always be that case, so I wouldn't take it for granted, the opportunity you have now. Maybe 5, 10 years, that won't be the case. Maybe it'll change back to where you have to have a lot of capital to be able to be successful on the internet. Right now, it's not that way. Take advantage of it. You can compete with the big guys, because if you're buying something as a consumer off a website, do you really care who's behind the website? Do you even know who owns it? As long as the product or service they're selling delivers what you want, that's all you're worried about. If it will get you what you want, who cares? So it could be a big corporation owns it, or it could be a mother of two working from home in her pajamas. As long as the product or service that they're selling off the internet works, you don't really care, do you, as a consumer? 24 hours a day, massive leverage. This is the other great benefit, no fixed location. That means you get successful internet marketing, you can live anywhere in the world that you want. Now, I know you live in one of the best cities of the world, you probably don't want to live anywhere else, but is there anywhere else, at least part-time, you want to live outside of Sydney? Yes or no? Yep. Think of a few places around the world you'd like to hang out? Adelaide, obviously not Adelaide, but yeah, catch the spirit of Tasmania for a weekend away. So this is important too as far as quality of lifestyle. Like Sydney is one of the most expensive cities in the world to live as far as property prices versus income. And as great a city as it is very expensive to live in. So if you can work from anywhere in the world, you can actually then live in an area that's much cheaper to live. Like the Gold Coast is much cheaper than, say, Sydney. So you can live in a quality of life there for a fraction of the price. So many people move to Queensland or southeast Queensland because they're going to have a house. Western Sydney, they might get an ordinary house, but in Gold Coast, they can live in quite a nice mansion for the same price. Does that make sense? So your income is what causes prices of properties to go up, like in New York or London or Sydney, is because the higher paying jobs are here. So people are attracted for the jobs, but then you have to compete against everyone else as a higher paying job in the price of property. That pushes property up more. But if you can have a high income and you don't have to be where other people are out of work and you work from anywhere, then your wealth is now worth double. For instance, if you're living on the Gold Coast, $100,000 a year income will go a lot further than $100,000 in Sydney. Is that true? In Sydney, $100,000 doesn't make you rich, does it? Time you have to pay rent and things like that. But in the Gold Coast, as an example, it's probably worth $150,000. True? Yep. So you're getting better return on your money. So it gives you this freedom that where you live becomes a choice. Okay? So you could go, for instance, what about $100,000 in Sydney may not be much money, but what about if you wanted to live part of the year in, say, a tropical place on the Caribbean, say Mexico in the Caribbean or somewhere in the Caribbean, that's very cheap to live? $100,000 there might be equivalent to $1 million a year in Sydney. Start thinking, something to think about. What about Tasmania? $100,000 here, what's it worth in Tasmania? Hell of a lot, okay? Or it used to be that way, but you go to Hobart, property prices have gone up a lot. Why? Because of this reason. People going to retire their part of the year, they've got more money, and they push the property prices up. So, number 8, unlimited worldwide market. So, this means that you are open to a much bigger market thanks to the internet. Okay, thanks to the internet, you can reach a lot more people. Jot all these down. Number 9, what leads to that, this gives you then the ability to target niche markets profitably. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you were selling chicken recipes. If you opened up a shop here in Pitt Street in Sydney, selling chicken recipes, are you going to do very well, yes or no? Well, no, because there's probably not enough people going to walk by to make a chicken recipe reseller successful. But on the internet, could you actually make money out of chicken recipes, yes or no? Well, even if you don't know, what it means that there's a big enough market out there worldwide of people that might be interested in chicken recipes that you can target that niche profitably via the internet. So a lot of products have been successful, have been products that are so out there you wouldn't even consider because on a small scale wouldn't be profitable, but in a big world market that you can target, all of a sudden becomes profitable. So you're going to learn a lot of examples by the speakers over the weekend of different products they've been able to target. They'll will teach you how to find out whether there's a demand for a product before you even launch it. Is that a good idea? Most people do it the wrong way. They create a product or service, they invent something, they've got the best idea, they fall in love with their idea or product. You realize that's not what you want to do. It's not whether you think it's a great product, the best product, it's whether other people think it's the best. You can have the best mousetrap, doesn't guarantee success, does it? You've seen many successful products, or what could have been successful products, great products, never succeed because people don't find out about them. And you see other products that are fairly crap that become hugely successful because they've had better marketing. So the ideal world is to have a good product and good marketing. Okay, so what you want to do is don't spend the 80-20 rule, same thing. Same thing with websites. If you're building websites, is it a good idea to pay someone, or if you're doing it yourself, to spend a heap of time building a website in detail and then going, well, maybe that doesn't work? Or is it better, like what I have my web team do, is if I've got a new website, new idea, they're trained automatically to the 80-20 rule to be productive. So rather than build 6 different websites and then come to me with which ones do I like, that would take a long time. They'll create 6 templates, as an example, very quickly. Doesn't take a lot of time, and then I can pick which template I like that one, and they proceed with detail and build one really good website. That saves building 6 and only using 1. Who's following what I'm saying here? So just being smart about what we want to do. So in other words, but what you want to do as far as demand is find a product or service that there's already a demand there. Is demand for something, create a product or service, or get a product or service to meet that market. You already know there's a market for it. Don't spend all this time, years of building a product, and then there's no market for it. And you've wasted years. Or you've wasted hundreds of thousands on capital on something that's not going to sell. Find out quickly there's a market for it up front before you invest too much time. Or you can actually do, if you're very clever on the internet, you can actually even sell products before you've actually created them. Most people don't think of that. You can actually, a lot of cases, you can create a product, see there's demand for it, so you're not even create it, you actually sell something first. If there's enough buyers, then you go and create the product. Make sense? Because then you're only going to waste time creating the product if there is already demand for that. Making sense? So that way you don't spend much time or energy on putting the effort into creating something until you already know there's going to be a market for it. So number 10, this is what's great about the internet, is high profit margins up to 100%. You can earn up to 100% profit margins on an internet business. Is that good? This means, as an example, let's say you're a large company like Coles-Myer. Now, I don't know what Coles-Myer turns over, maybe $3, $4, $5 billion a year. But let's say it only turned over $1 billion a year. Their profit margins, I don't know what they are this year, but most of those large retail stores like Coles-Myer are making about less than a 3% profit margin. So very narrow margin. The difference between going broke or making profit, a very fine line. They have to be very careful what they do. Now, David Jones has been more successful. Their profit margin is about 4, maybe 5%. But still not that much more. So you look at that. Now, you have to, if you're only making 3%, to make $100,000 a year profit on a business, for instance, if you're only making 3%, how much would you have to sell? Anyone got a calculator? 97 times that, basically. 3 million, is that right? 3,300,000. To make 100,000 at a 3% margin. Does that make sense? What if you're making 100% margin? How much do you have to sell? It's easy, everyone should know that one. All you have to sell on the internet is 100,000 a year. So with a 100% margin product, you only have to have a turnover 100,000 a year off a website, and it's equivalent to a business that is only making 3% margin, has to turn over 3.3 million in turnover to make the same profit. Does it make sense? What's easy to accomplish? It's obvious, isn't it? Someone working from home can have a website that can achieve that. Versus, that's a fairly significant business, 3.3 million, generally be a lot of staff involved, etc., overhead, and narrow profit margin. Making sense? So how do you have products that make 100% profit margin? I'll give you an idea. Software. In a lot of cases, you get software, you can make 100% margin. Downloadable type products that people can download instantly. There's no shipping, there's no physical cost because they're downloaded, i.e. a book or something, a manual. Subscription services can be up to that. Downloadable type things. Who's ever bought something you've downloaded before? Okay. So downloadable type products will come in. Other speakers will go into some detail of different products and things like that, how you find them. I'm just throwing ideas out here for you right now. Large profit margins, up to 100%. Number, instant delivery, no shipping. So in some cases, depending on the product, downloadable stuff, there's no delivery. You don't have to have a shipping team, etc. So simple. Perfect business. People go into a website, enter their credit card details, download whatever your product or service is. You don't have to be there. You're sleeping, and your website sends you an email and says you just made a sale. Who can handle the internet stress? Internet lifestyle, the stress of that. Okay, you're going to have to get used to checking emails. If you don't want to check the emails that you've made money off your website, you can delegate that to someone else. Okay, so if it's set up, can actually be that good if you get a good product or service. But it's not always that easy. You've got to be able to create the marketing, what we'll go through. The internet also improves your existing offline businesses. So you may already have a business, offline business, where the internet can expand your revenue, expand your income. So many businesses in this country still don't have a website. We're in 2000 and what year is it? 2008? The end of 2008. There are still businesses in this country that do not have a website. Is that insane? Is there a lot of businesses that have a website but have no idea about marketing the website? Yes or no? Very few people out there actually know how to have a good website, how to have proper marketing, and they still all have this limiting belief that the internet doesn't work. Actually, Jerry Harvey is one of those people. He's old school and doesn't have a lot of faith in internet. Okay, admittedly, as retailers, they haven't had as much success with it, but he has a limiting belief. I bet you if I wanted to spend the time and if I owned Harvey Norman, I guarantee you I could boost their sales online. Why? I have a different belief system. I'd figure out, because I know more about internet marketing and know how to do that. Jerry Harvey built his success on retail sales, how to sell through retail outlet. So that's his focus, that's his knowledge skill. So he admits he doesn't have this skill over here, but he imposes a limiting belief on himself. He doesn't believe it's possible. He doesn't think the internet's going to change the world as much as it actually will, and he's already doing. So in any product or service you want to sell, guess what? The motto is, find someone that's already doing it. And I guarantee you, any idea you have this weekend, I'm willing to bet in 99% of cases, someone else is already doing it. You'll go, well, Jamie, that means they've stolen my idea, or it's not going to work. No, there's a big market out there. Someone else already doing it, doesn't matter. You're going to do it what? Better. You're going to make your product unique. So when we talked about USP before, what you're going to be looking for is products that are unique. That way you never compete on price. Here's what I do when I go into most businesses. If I ever go in and do consulting or ever ask to help other businesses, is one of the first things I do. I share the story of my mother. My mother lives in a country town where we grew up. She still lives there. Many years ago, she decided to buy a coffee shop. Okay, decided to buy this coffee shop. One, she used to work in the coffee shop, and she thought, wouldn't it be great to be the owner? Big mistake most people make. And she decided to borrow to buy the coffee shop. At the time, I didn't realize when they borrowed, they also had the opportunity to buy the building that the coffee shop was in. But my dad was against debt, and because they'd borrowed from the bank to buy the coffee shop, they didn't want to extend their debt to buy the building. Another mistake, okay? Because what is the greatest risk? Buying the business or buying the building? The business. You pay $100,000 for a coffee shop, when the day you buy it could be worth zero if you can't find another buyer. Where a building, you pay $100,000 for it, you get sick of the business after 5 years, what's the building worth? Maybe 150. Maybe 200,000, depending on the increase in the market. And you can do something to the building, improve it as well. So, big mistake, because what they could have done was also borrow for the building, and what I would have done, or what I do if I buy a commercial building, is guess what you do if you have the business operating in the building? What do you do to the rents for your building? You charge your own business more rent. You jack up the rents, the first thing that you do. So you buy a commercial building, if you're buying it to put your own business in, you charge your business more rent. Can you do that, yes or no? Yes. Absolutely. Jack up the rents. Why? Because a commercial building is valued on the rent, predominantly on it's different to residential property, but even residential properties partly contribute to the rent in terms of its value. Commercial property is 90% based on its rental value. Just jack up the rents. So I said, Mum and Dad, that's what you could have done. You should have borrowed for the building, jacked up the rents, because even if the business doesn't make any money, which most of them don't, small coffee shops, then at least it's paying a higher rent. You've got a higher value on your business, and you can borrow more against it and invest it elsewhere. Or you can then flog the building off to someone else. It's worth more to them because you're paying more rent. Okay? But they didn't do that. It was another mistake they made. So anyhow, in the beginning, she's very passionate, loving her coffee shop, but after a while, working 6 days a week for no paycheck, where before she was working for a paycheck, starts to get stressful. In other words, because she was paying everyone else first. Another mistake most people in business make, they don't pay themselves first. And I've been guilty of this mistake as well. And you just got to get tough and you sort of say, you know, who do you pay this first? You. People say, well, but in the beginning, the business has to make a profit. Doesn't change the rules. You must pay yourself first. Why? Would you go and work for another company right now and the owner goes, doing it tough, it's a tough time out there, I'll pay you in 6 months. Would you go, yeah, no problem, I understand it's tough times right now, don't pay me any money, 6 months is fine. Who would do that? Anyone? If you would, come work for me. I'll find plenty of work for you and we'll fix you up one day, okay? You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that for someone else you work for, but you'll do it for yourself when you go work for yourself. Why? You should always pay yourself first. You must do that in business. So if you're going to go into a business, you're going to spend time in it, you're going to say, your time is worth X amount of money. You have to be paid. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, but I want to make profits down. Sure, but you want to set it up so you're making enough money, you're paid yourself first. So she wasn't paying herself first, she was paying everyone else, stress, working hard and not making any money. So eventually she come to me because she wouldn't listen to my advice in the beginning, even though I get paid millions of dollars a year to dish out my advice. My mother thought she wouldn't ask for it, okay? Eventually she had enough pain that she'd ask for my advice, okay? So I said, well, Mum, if it was me and the business was struggling, etc., I said if it was me, I would do things differently and I'd make that business profitable. But I would do things differently. And I will give you some ideas of what you can do, but I doubt whether you'll follow through, because most people won't. Because you won't do the obvious things that are simple. Would you like to know what I advised her to do with that business? It's very simple. First thing I said to do, and I don't have to be an expert on making coffee. I don't have to. All I have to do is put my head on her shoulders and think differently, then she'd get a different result. Because it's her thinking that's stopping her being successful. See, a lot of people blame the economy. They blame the lack of customers. They blame this. I live in Melbourne part of the year, and in a place called the Docklands. You ever been to Melbourne? Docklands is like the biggest property development in the history of Australia. And one part of Docklands there's 2 restaurants there. There's one that I go to often. I've got a good friend that owns it. He sits up to 1,500 people a day. Booming, okay? Booming. That's because I tell everyone to go there. No, I'm just kidding. But it's booming. And there's another restaurant there that's empty. I don't know how it's still operating, but hardly has any people there. Now, if you went and talked to the person that their restaurant's empty, they would say, oh, it's the location. Docklands really hasn't taken off yet. Or they'd blame, the economy's changed. They'd blame everything bar who? They wouldn't look at themselves when they are the main contributor, because why is my friend that has a booming business, same environment, similar location, same opportunity, he serves up to 1,500 a day. And also, he loves it. He loves his business. It's a passion. He's proud of his business. He actually goes, he doesn't have to be there, he goes there. He knows virtually everyone by their personal name that comes there. Very friendly, not stressed. Where the other guy's stressed, freaking out, afraid of going broke, and will go broke. But blaming everything else other than changing the individual. It's usually us that has to change. Because the truth is in the what? Truth is in the results. Why will some people with the internet opportunity make an absolute fortune and other people say, oh, it doesn't work? Is the internet or the strategy that doesn't work, or is the individual? 80% of it's going to be the individual. Sure, when a global credit crisis mightn't help some industries, but we've got to adjust to what is. Whatever the economy is, we're going to focus the 80% on what we can control. So I said to her, here's the first thing you want to do, and this relates to everyone in the room. I said, the first thing I would do is I would put the prices up the next day. Increase your prices. I said, oh, that's what I would do, but I bet you don't do it. Who here has a business already? So here's my advice. Now you test and measure this. Come Monday, I want you to put your prices up. But you don't understand. Well, there may be some rare exceptions and not likely to be you. you need to put your prices up. How do I know that? Because most people undercharge. Why? Because they haven't developed themselves personally, so they don't feel they're worthy. The reason my mum subconsciously wouldn't put the prices up is like, will my customers still love me? Or will they reject me? I said, Mum, if a cup of tea in the country, let's say it's $3, and it goes to $3.30, I don't think it's going to affect the relationship that much. I said, it's insignificant to the client, but massively significant to you. I said, a lot of the people that come to your coffee shop, know you, are friends with you. If they knew that you were slaving away 6 days a week just to serve them coffee and going broke, they would feel guilty and actually pay more money. True? I said, you've got to take care of yourself. I don't mean overcharge, but here's what the motto is. Increase your prices and put more into it. Because you're making more margin, you're more relaxed, you're more happy, and you've got more time, you can improve your service. So add more value. Add more value and charge more. And people are like, well, you can't do that. Yes, you can. Who determines the price? You do. Now think about this. The price of something. People say, well, I'm going to buy always at the cheapest. Do we always buy the cheapest, yes or no? Because if you only ever want the cheapest, why didn't you take your first date, why didn't you take your partner to McDonald's? If you wanted the cheapest price and we only wanted why didn't you take your partner to McDonald's on your first date? Yeah, because it wouldn't get you the results. Is that true? Why do you go and spend more money and take them to an expensive restaurant to impress them? Why? Well, McDonald's is cheaper. Do you always want the cheapest, yes or no, as a consumer? No, what do you want? You want a better experience. You want value. Sometimes you're willing to pay more because you want that experience. Now, you ever found this ironic? That the more expensive a restaurant becomes, the smaller the meals. Do you notice that? The cheaper the restaurant, the bigger the meals. You ever go to America to Denny's for breakfast, $7? You have to bring your friends to carry it out. It's huge, okay? So the cheaper the restaurant, the bigger the meals. So you say, well, that's a rip-off. Is it a rip-off? You're paying for quality, you want it. So they will charge more in an expensive restaurant. They'll put more value in it, but they'll deliver the finer things at a better level of service, and you'll want that at times. Making sense? So don't shortchange yourself. Most people don't charge enough. And you say, well, how do I put my price up next week? I work for someone. Guess what you're going to do? You're going to ask for what? You're going to ask for a pay rise. But there's a way to go about doing that. Now, this doesn't, 21st century staff, this doesn't count for you, okay? So, those watching at home, same thing. Ask for a pay rise. Now, in order to get, you must first give. You must demonstrate value. So if you're not adding value to work and you ask for a pay rise, and if you go in and say, I want a pay rise, but I don't get it, I'm walking out, okay? Now, don't bluff. If you're prepared to walk out, then fine. But if you're not, I wouldn't recommend that strategy, okay? Because your employer might be going, global credit crisis, I need to cut numbers. Oh, don't have to sack you, you're going to walk out? Fine, thank you very much, walk out, okay? So you need to be demonstrating adding value. You must add value, but you also must be perceived as adding value. And there's a way to go about it. You want to demonstrate value, demonstrate what's in it for them. Anything you're selling, what's in it for them. Pitch to them what's in it for them, and then what you get, okay? So put your prices up. So I said to Mum, you can put your price up. This is what you've got to understand in business is this and this. When you're starting an internet business, you're going to be looking at what pricing. Top internet marketers, what they will do is they'll price test. They'll price test. In other words, they will test a product on different websites at different prices to see what sells best. And you know what? Ironically if you want to increase your sales, guess what you should do? What most people do, like times are getting tough out there, what are they thinking of doing? Jacking their prices up or jacking them down? They're looking at dropping their price to compete on price, hopefully more people will buy it. That's basically saying, I don't believe in my product or service, I'm going to lower it. Hopefully, please buy off me, beg. Make sense? It's a recipe for failure. Ironically, the world is usually the opposite of what you think. The fastest way to increase sales is, guess what? Now, there's exceptions to this, but you'd have to test and measure. The fastest way to increase your sales is to increase your prices. Don't believe me? Test it. You should test everything. Now, different products and services will vary slightly, but across the board, generally, you can say this as a statement: increase your prices, increase your sales. Why? Because perceived value. If something is too cheap, some people won't buy it. Let me give an example of this. It's an interesting example, but it's a true story. My cousin, one of my cousins, she works part of the year. She's Australian, works part of the year for a multi-billionaire. This guy, you may have heard of him if you're in the art world. His gentleman's name by the name of Damien Hirst. Who's heard of Damien Hirst before? If you haven't heard of him yet, you will in the future. He may be coming out to Australia. Damien Hirst is the most successful living artist on the history of the planet. The guy's a multi-billionaire. And he, only 2 months ago in London, sold over $250 million worth of artwork in a single week. People could come to his artwork and see it. $250 million. It was in the papers, etc. The most successful living artist on the planet. Multi-billionaire from creating art. You know how he started? He was in contemporary art, so he wasn't necessarily a big-time artist. He wanted to take the piss out of the art world, basically. Literally what he did. So he decided to do this. He was going to create his first piece of art. And now most artists are poor, right? Because they're very creative, but they're not very good with money. Okay, so they're usually poor, and they will sell their artwork off because they need the money. So they're quite desperate, so they'll sell it cheaply. Most artists, not all artists. So he decided to really, what he decided to do, his first piece of art, he decided, instead of selling for a couple of $1,000, he decided to put a price tag. I can't remember the exact price tag, it was over $1 million. Okay, he thought, I'm just going to see what art's really worth. He put over $1 million on it, and had people bid at an auction, had some silent bidders bid for the auction. Someone else was buying the artwork for himself and paid $1 million. It was really him, anyhow, buying his own artwork. But what he was doing was establishing a price for his artwork. Very clever, okay? Establishing a price for his artwork. Now, then, immediately after the auction, other art buyers around the world contacted him and paid more for that piece of art. So it sold well above $1 million of other artwork. Now it really established, because he established a benchmark price and other people now wanted it. Because if it was sold for $1,000, are the wealthiest people on the planet interested in a piece of art for $1,000, yes or no? They're not interested in price, they're interested in something of value. The value is determined by who? Who's the biggest determinant of value? Well, the seller initially. The seller can often be initially. If you put a price tag on it, all of a sudden, especially in the art world, it's worth something. Because prestige buyers aren't buying art so they can get the cheapest and nastiest art around the world. They're buying something that has value. The fact they pay $1 million for a piece of art gives it its value anyhow. Because, you know, art is not exactly very objective. Have you seen artwork that you wouldn't pay a cent for? Who's seen that? They might be worth millions of dollars, because it's all up to the individual what something is worth. It's a bit like business as well, though. Different markets, people around the world will value different things. Some people might want to pay a cent for your product, but other people will pay a lot for the product because it's what they're looking for. Same in the art world. So he did admit that this is what he did years later. It didn't matter, but he wanted to do that just to prove to the art world how it works. And now Damien Hirst, to buy his artwork, you'll pay literally millions, in some cases tens of millions of dollars for a single piece. Is that amazing? Okay, so the moral to the story is, put your prices up, or go into contemporary art, okay? Making sense? But here's where the difference is. What you've got to understand is this: a 10% increase on price mightn't seem that significant to a coffee shop. Let's say that coffee shop, I don't know the exact figures, but let's say it was doing $15,000 a week in sales and was making, say, barely $500 a week. My mum was barely taking that home, some weeks nothing. If she puts her price up by 10%, that's an extra $1,500 thereabouts she'll earn for no extra effort. No more rent, no more staff, no extra effort, but just putting the price up by 10%. Now, some people are like, if I put the price up, I might lose some customers. Well, if you do good, send them to your competitors so they can go broke serving them. Does it make sense? If you're not making enough money, then you're going broke. You've got to do something differently. Most people will not do the common sense thing they need to do. They put off the obvious thing they need to do. I can't put up the prices. What if people won't love me? You know? It's normally $100, but you'll do it for $20. If we don't value ourselves or feel worthy, we won't charge enough. And most people do not feel worthy, thus they don't charge enough. If you're confident, certain about what you believe in, you'll put your prices up and you'll put yourself into it and you'll serve and you put more passion and make it the best damn product you have. Who's following what I'm saying here? So you're putting more in because people respect that in society. So 10% goes up $1,500 a week. Might have lost a few customers if she did it, very few. Okay, and the ones she did lose wouldn't really matter. So what that means at the end of the day, most of that is actually profit because all the rent, etc., is already taken out of the existing sales. So let's say 1,000 of that is extra profit because that part would be the highest profit margin. You add that onto the $500 a week she was making, all of a sudden she's making now $1,500 a week as an example. She's increased her price by 10%, but how much has increased the bottom line? From $500 to $1,500 a week, what's that? A 300% jump in profit to the bottom line? Make sense? $500 she was making, let's say out of the $1,500 increase in sales, 1,000 of that was profit. It would be a high profit margin because the rents, etc., is all, it's just the food. 1,000 onto 1,500, okay, on 500, it's 1,500 a week she's now making versus 500, okay? Making sense? Small increase in price can have an exponential increase in the bottom line. So a lot of people think it's a great big secret to becoming successful in business. Often it's the small things that make a very big difference, okay? So one lesson is, and we're doing anything, price tests. Now on the internet, you're going to, as I said, a lot of the top internet marketers, I'll talk about it tomorrow as well, they will price test different prices and they'll find out what is the best price. Too high of a price won't sell. Too low of a price won't sell. It has to be the right price. So each product will vary. You will test that. Okay? And often you'll find increasing the price, good distinction for you, will increase your sales. Repeat after me. Something to think about. And most people aren't aware of that. And as a result, most people produce the results most people produce. Making sense? The other great thing about the internet, inexpensive to advertise. Now, in comparison to traditional media. Old media is like newspapers, magazines, TV ads. New media is online, internet, websites, other websites, etc. So new media has been all the buzz for some years right now. Even the old media barons such as Rupert Murdoch, etc. See, he's a smart entrepreneur. Whether you like him or don't, the guy you got to give credit to didn't know anything about the new media, but he realized that there was a shift happening, so he decided to start investing, still invest in old media like newspapers, but he now invests in new media. He bought a particular website some years back now, I think 3 or 4 years ago. He paid, I think, recollection, about $580 million for a website. Okay? So you think, is our websites valuable? Well, websites are. Who can tell me what website did he buy? MySpace. I think he paid about $580 million for the company Intermedia that owned, one of its assets was MySpace. Okay, very good investment at the time. It's now valued anywhere between $5 and $8 billion a few years later. Might have dropped down a little bit in the last 6 months, but still worth a lot more than he paid for it. Microsoft was too late. They missed out on MySpace, so they went and bought 1% of Facebook. I think for $260 million or something. So almost half as much as what Murdoch paid for all the MySpace, they got in too late and paid for 1% of Facebook. And they had to pay a hell of a lot more just for 1% when Murdoch owns all of MySpace, which in the US is actually has been the market leader ahead of Facebook, and Facebook's obviously getting more popular. Who's on Facebook? Okay, so you can see how popular Facebook is. Who doesn't know what Facebook is? From one person, that's about all. So they've got massive brand exposure, is that true? That's a massive successful business. Now what is it? It's a website and it's free. Is it free to join Facebook? Pretty much free. So when you're looking at, we got to think like, oh, we've got to find a product or service. Some of the most successful companies on the internet don't even sell their product or service. They give it to you for free, is that true? Google, how much do you pay to search on Google? You pay nothing. Hang on, Jamie, are you saying that I don't even have to be smart? I could create a product or service and just be dumb enough to give it away for free and it could become hugely successful. Absolutely. We're not looking for Einstein stuff here, remember. You don't have to be an internet guru or computer geek, okay? You actually don't even need to know anything about computers. What you have to do is understand what consumers want and how to solve their problems. That's what you have to be focused on. Like Richard Branson. Einstein or not, all he's thinking, is there industries in the world where people are getting overcharged, poor service, that I can undercut them, deliver a better service, and make a profit out of it? That's pretty much his recipe. And he's able to go in, and if he can do that, he makes money. We don't have to be gurus. We just have to think, what do consumers want? What do consumers want? You should know, because guess what you are? You're a consumer. That's what you've got to start thinking. How does the consumer think? What do they want? So Google, a massively successful website, gives its service away for free. How does it make its money? Advertising. If you have a lot of traffic to a website, you can sell advertising space. So that's called the advertising model, which is very successful in the internet world. YouTube. How much is it to post a video on YouTube or whatever? It's free. But they have an advertising model. So sometimes you don't even have to be selling a product or service. You just have to have traffic. And you're going to learn a lot of different ways. What's great about the internet? There's so many different ways. Okay? Who's excited by that? Think about that. You don't have to be an Einstein. As I'm going through this and sharing these stories, you should be triggering in your mind, how can I apply that? How does that relate to me? Because anything I'm sharing actually relates to everyone in this room, even if you don't think it relates to you. Okay? Your job is to figure out, how does that relate to me? How can I benefit from that? It's up to you, though. Okay. Internet profits. 3-step system. So I'm going to keep this very simple. These are the 3 key steps you must master to be successful on the internet. Then the other speakers over the course of the weekend, including tonight and tomorrow and Monday, they're going to drill down into depth on each one or two or particularly these different areas. Okay? So I'll walk it through, and this is the overview, because a lot of people get into overwhelm. Just remember there's 3 main steps we're going to go through for the internet, and if you get caught up and tomorrow or one of the speakers are getting too in-depth for you, just think, what step, one of these 3 steps is this speaker focusing on right now? Okay? And then that will help you chunk it down. One of the first steps we're going to have to do, which we've been talking a little bit about, we need to find a product or service to sell, or in some cases give away for free. We need to find a product or service to sell. So step 1, just jot this down. So if you don't, now some of you who in the room already has an internet business, already has a product or service, or has a product or service and you just want to know how to sell it better, who's already in that position, okay? A lot of you, 30 of you already have a product or service. The rest of you thinking, I don't have a product or service, doesn't matter, we're going to cover that, ways you can go about creating a product or service. Step number 2, once you have a product or service you want to sell, is then you need to figure out how to get traffic to your website. You can have the best mousetrap in the world, but if no one knows about it, no one's going to buy it. So you're going to learn how to drive traffic to your site. Probably one of the most valuable steps to know. But incredibly simple, and some of these things you could be doing today. You could literally launch internet business today. And number 3, once that traffic's there, you've got to be able to do something with that traffic. You need to convert that traffic to sales or some form of revenue. If you can do that, you'll make money while you sleep. 24 hours a day. In a nutshell, it's quite simple. It's focusing on those things and getting to work. Okay? So this is what we're going to go into. Find a product or service, drive traffic to site. So any of the speakers over the course of this weekend, you'll be able to go, any of the internet speakers, you'll be able to go, hang on, what area are they talking about now? A lot of them will spend a lot of time on number 2, how to drive traffic to a site. They'll spend also time, some of them, on how to find a product or service or create a product or service. Because I've taught a lot of people now about the internet. We have many members out there now. Once they learn the basics of this, they might get one website going and making money. Once they've learned out the recipe, then they just replicate that. They have a second, a third, a fourth. Some people have dozens of websites. Some are earning a little bit, some are earning a lot. But they just continue. Once you've learned the recipe, you can just roll it out. There's no limit to what you can do. It's getting the recipe right in the beginning. Okay? And that will be paper trading, which will be effectively test and measuring is what you're doing. Okay. Find a product or service. Create a product is one way to go about it. Now, I'm not going to recommend when you're first starting as an internet guru, you may not want to spend too much time on creating a product because you can spend a year or 2. I know a particular gentleman who's just spent over $1 million creating a website and a product, a software product. He spent over $1 million. He doesn't know yet whether it'll sell. Big mistake. He knows there's a market, but he doesn't know whether his product will sell. You want to hope it sells. He spent $1 million doing it. Okay, now I'm going to help him sell it because I think it's a good product, but there's no guarantee. I'm a marketer, I know how to make things sell, but if it's not a good product or it's not a product that's going to, it might be a good product, but you still got to get it to sell. Does that make sense? You can have a great product, but it doesn't mean it's going to be successful. You still got to be able to get it to sell. And there's an art to that. And not always can you do it. You can be the best guru at something. Some products are not going to work. So what I'm going to suggest as a novice, as a virgin internet novice, if you're new to all this, don't start creating a product. You're going to shortcut it. We're going to tell you other ways to go about doing this. So leave this as an later. One of my first mentors, what he did is that he was studying the internet for month after month. For about 18 months, he did every course he could find on the internet. He studied internet marketing, how to make money online. And he's like, come to the first step. I need a product or service. And he couldn't think of a product or service. And what he actually ended up creating as his first product or service was he'd been to over 800 different websites, and he bookmarked the websites that he found were valuable for information that taught him how to be successful at internet marketing, how to make money on the internet. So he'd learn all this and bookmark these 800 sites. And he thought, you know what? I wonder if there's other people in the world that want to save 18 months and save all the research that I've done to find out all these great sites so we can get a heap of free information that's valuable for teaching you how to market online. And out of that idea, he thought, let me ask you a question. Do you think there's other people in the world that want to save 18 months, would pay for something to access all that? That was his first product. He charged, I think it was around $100 for it. It was a downloadable product with all these bookmarks. And he applied some of the strategies he'd learned about internet marketing to be able to promote it. He ended up making over $4.2 million US in the first 4 months of launching that product. So you're saying, Jamie, he didn't even have a product, so his product was something that he got for free, repackaged it. So think about this. Often the products already exist. He's repackaged 800 websites, not the website, but actual bookmarks to go to the links to these websites that were valuable information on internet marketing, put into a product and people pay $100 to download and get all that information for $100. Why would people pay $100? Well, people are after that information to save some time. $100 to save 18 months, done. Make sense? Simple product. So while he's trying to figure out what product he's going to sell, out of that, he had a product right in front of him. Okay? Why? Because he was acting as a consumer. Go, wonder who else has had the same frustrations I've had trying to figure out this thing about the internet and might want to know and save themselves time. Solve a problem, have a product. Makes sense? The only reason it stopped after 4 months is that he's banking in America, he's a merchant facility. Now, banks are a little bit more open now with internet banking, but there's obviously security risks sometimes with internet banking. Back then in the early days, they would freak out. So a new business that starts from zero and processes $4.2 million through a website in the first 4 months, banks get a little bit nervous. So they shut him down. They shut down his merchant facilities, turned it off. Why? Because they're afraid we better check out whatever he's selling in case there's a heap of refunds. And the heap of refunds, the bank would be liable. Okay? So that was why it stopped after 4 months. Okay? But that was not a bad launch of a product. Would you agree? But downloadable, so high profit margin. So that's an example of creating a product. But in the beginning, let's skip that step. Let's move into something a little bit easier. You can also create a service. It doesn't have to be a product. You may be an accountant as an example, and you might sell one-on-one consultations, etc. What you could do as an accountant, you could create a membership or a subscription service where you could get leverage, where a lot of clients might have typical questions. They don't need to ring up, etc., but they might be able to go, you might be able to sell a 12-month subscription, maybe 20, 30, 50, $100 a month or whatever, and people can just pay and they can go on and ask questions on the forum, like for all subscribers, and you can have your accountants or yourself, you can answer those questions, and it builds up a library of frequently asked questions and answers. So most people have the same questions over X time, so people could go on, not only could they post questions and an accountant would come back and answer that question, but it would build up a previous library of all previous questions and answers so people could get a lot of value out of that. That's an example of a service. Taking what they do now and then marketing in a way that could be a service type subscription-based model. Jot this down, subscription-based models are very effective. You've got the advertising model, which like Google, something for free, but you get people to your site and you sell advertising, which I'll give you an example of Google in detail, how they make money. Then you have the subscription-based model. Subscription can be very effective because it's a reoccurring revenue model. In other words, you're charging per week or per month, etc. And people pay them a month, you just debit, they enter once, debit off their credit card, ongoing, until they elect to cancel after the X amount of period. Does it make sense? So subscription model can be very successful, and you could adjust whatever you do around that. So I have several of my different incomes as subscription-based products, some of my own or other people that, etc. I drove traffic to their sites, and then I get paid a revenue, X percentage of the revenue, and that's just a reoccurring revenue. And some of these I built years and years ago that still come in. Some of them are only like 5,000, 10,000 a month, but it's passive income. And it comes in and nothing, you don't have to do anything. You know, in fact, it's just continued marketing. It happens all automated. Who'd like some things like that? Okay. Subscription-based model is one very effective model to consider. Number 3 is, here's maybe a shorter process, which I've done at times as myself, is I'll acquire the rights to other people's products. In other words, you can buy the rights. Sometimes you get the rights for free. Sometimes you'll pay a lot of money for them. Okay? In other words, instead of creating a product, other people may have already created the product that sells on the internet, and you just go and buy the rights to that product and you sell it, and you make a commission. Or you might own the product and make all the money. Depends what the rights are. One of the most successful ways people in Australia have made money for years, the top entrepreneurs, what they would do is once a year they'd go for a research trip. They'd fly to the United States of America. They'd trip around and just get ideas from America. Because often things happen in America first. They've been the market leaders in many products because they've built a very good entrepreneurial model over there. Up until recently, things have changed, where China's really going to become the future market leader. And guess what China's good at? What has China done? What are we talking about today? What do? They copy, okay? Now, we don't want to copy to the extent China does. You might want to have some intellectual property rights and actually protect that, but they will just blatantly copy. So when I talk about copy, I mean modeling. In other words, looking at something, getting ideas off, but creating your own and improving it. Make sense? So you're not infringing on intellectual property. China, they don't really, that'd be like, intellectual property, what's that? Who, what? Can't understand, okay? Don't care. No, I'm just taking the mickey out of them, but is it true? They will copy everything. Anthony Robbins, he's done some speaking in China, and they just have a different idea. Outside his seminar, he's doing a seminar, and outside the seminar there was the people that copy things. Outside they had copied Unleash the Power Within tapes, copied in Chinese, and they're selling it right outside his seminar. Not only do they copy, but it doesn't faze them that maybe not something you're meant to do. They just have a different rules around that. But they've got to say they've been very successful. They will take something and copy it usually for cheaper because they have cheap labour force, and they're able to produce something on mass scale. That other kind. So it can be a bit of a problem protecting that intellectual property, but they are mass copyists. They build a whole economy based on that. Very smart modelers. Okay? So we can acquire the rights. So what a lot of people, look at something like Bunnings Warehouse. Bunnings was created. You know how it was created? It was a copied idea. The owners of that went to the US, saw what they were doing in the US, similar Home Depot and companies like that, and thought, it's a good idea. And what the shortcut is, if it's already working over there, it's a fair chance it's going to work in Australia. Or if you want to test things first, where do you go and test it? New Zealand. Do we have any Kiwis here? Yeah. Do you know what New Zealand is? Okay, that could be a very long conversation. But predominantly what New Zealand is, it's a test market. New Zealand gets a lot of products first in the world because big companies will go and test it because it's a small microcosm of the rest of the world, of Western society. They'll go and test and launch products in New Zealand. Small marketplace, if it works, yep, then they'll test in a bigger marketplace. Making sense? But in America, if they've got it working already, you already have a sense of certainty. Hey, if it's working over here, there's a fair chance it's going to work in Australia. Why? Because it's a very similar country as far as Western society. Okay, very different in many areas, but as far as the marketing, things like that, it's likely to work. So that's how Bunnings started. It was just an idea they effectively stole or took from. Ideas, you can freely take ideas. No one can protect an idea. They can protect a certain way and methodology of that idea with patents, etc. But if you get the idea and then change it a bit, that's the way. The world's like that. You're allowed to do that. So they're able to, and they started Bunnings and been very successful. And it's just a copied idea from what they do in the US. So many businesses have done that. So one thing I'm suggesting that, and what you're doing this weekend also, is you're taking time out of your business to work on your business. In this room, you'll get so many ideas this weekend, or talking to other people in the audience, what they've done, their experiences, you're getting ideas. Okay? And that's one thing I've had to say to myself I want to do more of, is actually Get outside my different industries I'm in and go and check out other things and just do that. Add that into your yearly schedule to go and check out other things, whether it's going to expos or conferences or other seminars, in or outside your industry, to continually tap into new ideas. Bring that fresh thinking back and improve what you do. Making sense? A lot of the best ideas for myself have come from doing that. So you can acquire the rights to products. Now, sometimes you can go to the US and get products where you'll say, look, I'd love to get the rights to these products in Australia. Often you can get the rights to products for nothing, okay? I know one guy that went to the US and got the rights to a particular product, and then he brought it to me. I loved the product, and I promoted it, turned over $10 million a year in this company promoting it, and he still to this day gets 20% cut on $10 million turnover. And all he did was he was there first, got the idea, and then I couldn't get the idea because he already had the idea for the Australian rights. So I had to sell it via him in the Australian rights. He got 20% cut of $10 million a year. All he did was bring the idea to Australia and got the rights to Australia for free. Most American companies, if they know where Australia is, they think it's so far away and so small, they'll give you the rights for free. Why? Because they're never going to sell down here anyhow. So if you sell it and pay them a royalty, what do they? They don't lose. So often you get the rights for free. Take it Australian marketplace, market if it sells well, you're just paying a royalty to the US, and he made 20%. Still does to this day. It drives me crazy, okay? So to cut that out, I have to either go and invest money and build my own product, similar product, takes a lot of time and money, or find someone else that has a product where I can get the rights to Australia, which is exactly what I'm doing. So get a similar product, I can get the rights so I don't have to pay that 20%. Making sense? So acquiring the rights to products, or first to get the rights to products, are very good. Many products, I've gone to the US and brought a lot of good products out that have worked quite well. Number 4, if you want to be an apprentice internet guru, this is where you're going to start. Join an affiliate program. Online affiliate program. If you're not into internet marketing, this is where I recommend you start. You can join an online affiliate program and promote someone else's product or service for free. Okay, you join for free and you earn a commission. It's a referral system on the internet. Raise your hand if you're an online affiliate of a company. Okay, some of you may be online affiliates for 21st Century, some of you, whatever. There's heaps of online affiliates. Most good companies will have an online affiliate program. Now, if you're an internet marketer, guess what you should be thinking? Why don't I have an online affiliate program? That's what you should be thinking. Who has their own online affiliate program? One person. So, not only if you're a beginner, you should join an online affiliate program. This is how you're going to serve your apprenticeship. This is how you can start today, effectively. But if you have your own website and promoting a product or service, or your own product or service, you should set up your own online affiliate program so people can join your affiliate program and sell your product or service and you pay them a commission. Does it make sense? There's one very powerful way. Some of my different companies, I have thousands. In one company, over 7,000 online affiliates. Another company, several thousand. Or one of my mentors will be here sharing with you this weekend has in one with his product or service over 22,000 online affiliates around the world that are paid a commission to promote his product. It's a massive sales force, and it can be all done online very simply with software that will track and measure all that. So the young medical doctor I talked about that was making up to $90,000 US a month. He didn't even have a website. Didn't even have his own product or service. How he was doing that, he still does this to this day. He now lives overseas, delegates and has people doing this for him. He simply was joining up to online affiliate programs and what's called, jot this down, arbitrage. He was effectively arbitraging. No, I can't spell it. I'll try. Arbitrage. It's just the concept you got to get. How you spell it is irrelevant. Who can spell it? R-I? R-I? T-R-A-G-E. It is quite simple, isn't it? Arbitrage. Okay. It's not, whether you can spell it or not is irrelevant, okay? The point is, what does it mean? What I didn't learn at school but wish I had. How to spell arbitrage. One day I'd need it. So, the way that arbitrage works is this. And effectively what he was doing, he would enroll as an online affiliate. One of the examples when I asked, this is when I first met him, I had met him before, but I caught up with him when I was talking this morning, how I first got the idea about internet marketing. And what he was doing was, as an example, one of the online affiliate programs he was promoting was a cable US TV station. Okay, like in Australia we have Foxtel, subscription-based model. You pay monthly for pay TV, similar thing in the US, cable TV. And any company will pay a commission generally if you can drive them new clients. So he was driving traffic to their site via an online affiliate link. Okay, so if you go, for those who are complete novices, if you go and become an online affiliate, you can, you'd register for free through a website and they'd give you an online affiliate code. So let's say it was Foxtel as an example, you're promoting, it might be foxtel.com/PH1276. That's your particular online affiliate code. So you would promote that out to people, or you'd run ads to a banner which is linked to that. Okay? People click on that web link and it goes through to, in this case, Foxtel as an example, to their website in the US. And if people buy the subscription service for cable TV, then you're paid a commission. It's tracked that way. Making sense? It's just a referral program. So he was driving traffic via this link to their site, and as a result, that was one of the very successful ones. He was making tens of thousands of dollars a month in income, in commissions. So effectively arbitrage, in one sense, he was paying to get that traffic. When he talks about how to drive traffic, one of the ways he was getting that traffic, and he still does, he does many methods, but it's one way, is driving Google advertising to drive traffic to that. Okay, so he'd pay for the Google traffic, so it might cost him, let's say he was making $15,000 a month in commissions, but it was costing him $5,000 a month in Google advertising to drive that traffic. He was effectively arbitraging. In other words, you're spending this amount to make that amount. He was making the money in between of $10,000 in that example per month profit. Making sense? He was effectively an advertising broker, really. But the internet made that possible because what the internet did, what Google did, the old style of, for instance, when you talk about how do you deliver a better service at a better price, what Google did was in the past to advertise for a company to grow it, you'd have to run expensive newspaper ads or magazine or TV. Now with that old media advertising, they charge you up front X amount of dollars, whether your ad performs or not, they don't care. They get paid up front and they couldn't care whether your ad works or not because they got their money. So it was non-performance based. Google made it performance-based advertising. So what they said is that we won't charge you up front. You can advertise with us and you'll only pay when someone clicks on your ad and goes through to your website. I.e. pay per click. That's what's called pay-per-click advertising. You only pay when someone actually clicks on your ad and goes through to their website. Far more effective and also more inexpensive. You're not paying anything up front and you can control how much you pay. Because Google solved the biggest problem was not only one, they solved two problems. They needed to get a lot of traffic. So to solve that, they needed a great product. Their product was you could search for anything in the world and find it quickly. And they gave that product away for free, even though it would cost them literally billions to deliver that product to you. But they give it to you for free. Why? Because they look after the consumer is happy, you'll keep coming there. And then when you come there, you'll search and you'll click on advertising because you don't even know it's advertising or care what it's advertising, you just want something. And you'll click on that. So they solved a second problem. Their second problem is they solved the old advertising, old media model, which was flawed, which was expensive, was ineffective, where newspapers and etc. are ripping off the advertising, basically charging for something without really delivering value to a degree. And they solved that problem, so then advertisers could now advertise for a fraction of the cost and direct targeted advertising. As a result, many people moved on to spend a lot of money in advertising on Google, and Google become this small company within a decade, become one of the most successful companies ever in the history of the planet. Make sense? Very successful because of that. So they solved a problem there. So arbitrage is the profit in between. They're spending 5,000, making 15, in between there's 10,000 profit. That's just one concept of arbitraging. Repeat after me. Something to think about. Are you saying he doesn't even have a product or service, he doesn't even have his own website, he's making up to 90,000 US a month, promoting someone else's or numerous other products. And he has it on an automated model. Absolutely. That's one way to make a lot of money on the internet. You say, well, Jamie, why don't you have him here to share with us this weekend? Okay, because he's too busy making money. You can't get him to come. But we do have him on DVD. So you'll actually be able to, those members in the room tomorrow night, when you finish up, we finish up tomorrow, you'll be able to grab your internet and home study set, which you get for free as a member. He's actually on that. Now, he's not a professional speaker, but he has a lot of knowledge. So he's very technical, but he explains how he does that. Now, obviously, the internet changes by the month, so there's always fine-tuning, and what may have worked a few years ago has been amended now, but the fundamentals still work. It's a matter of changing that. Some of the other speakers will talk about it anyhow. Okay? If you're not a member and want to learn more about that particular strategy as far as on the internet, you can also buy the Internet and Business Home Study as well, okay, and study that at home, that and other speakers. But that is a particular one strategy, but that's what he's doing. Now, how can you do something like that? Well, you can also do this. You can join an online affiliate program, and you could join one today. You can go home tonight, jump on a computer, just type in online affiliate programs, you'll find heaps, okay? If you're a 21st Century member and like what we do at 21st Century, you can join our online affiliate program. We have one, it's free to join. You can go to our website, and I'll give you an example of it later. Go and join for free, and then you'll get an affiliate code emailed to you pretty much instantly, which will be a website address, your particular code. Then you promote that, you email that out to people, or you run ads, and you arbitrage. You'll be shown how to run ads. You can run ads to your link, come through to a website, you earn X amount of commission, you spend X amount of money here. As long as what you're spending here is less than what you're earning here, you're making a profit in between. That's effectively the online affiliate system, okay? So, or you can promote online affiliates without spending any money, just by doing other, I'll take some questions in a moment, by doing other promotion, other marketing, many methods you'll learn this weekend, which I'll go through some of them before I finish up today, as far as marketing, low cost or zero cost marketing. So anything you make is all profit. Something to think about, okay? Now, some of you already do that, is that true? Okay. Now, if all you ever did, some people, that's all they ever do is just do online affiliate programs. Never build a website, never create a product, just promoting someone else's product or service. And they can do many products and services, okay? So, making sense? The other way you earn income is get paid for online advertising from your site, i.e. what Google does, or what many sites do. People coming to their website, you've got a lot of traffic, you might allow ads to run on your site. You might say, well, Jamie, how do I get ads to run on my site? One way you can do that is jot this down, is Google AdSense. Some of you will be familiar with that, some of you wouldn't. In other words, Google will run ads on your site for you. They'll do all that, and every time someone clicks on one of those ads of Google that's on your site, Google will pay you a commission. So people could be clicking on the ads all the time. So some systems are out there where you just build websites to get traffic to people to click on advertise. You become an advertising site, effectively. People come to your site for basic information, whatever you're giving away for free information. You're replicating effectively what Google did. Free service, free information. People come to their site and they'll click on ads. So they click on those ads. Every time they click on the ads, let's say, and I'll give you an example in a moment. Let's say you have a website. And down here, you'll see, this might be your website, but you allow ads. Google can opt in for Google AdSense. How do you do this? Go to a computer tonight or next week, go to Google and click on, would you like to advertise with Google? Okay, or would you like to have advertisements placed on Google AdSense? Is for advertisements to be placed on your website. Google AdWords is for you to place ads on other people's websites or around Google so you can get traffic to your site. So there's two things you can do here. One, you can place ads to drive traffic to your site, which I'm going to walk you through in a moment. The other thing you do is have Google AdSense, where they'll place ads on your site. So eventually when you have a website, this is your website, and as a result, people can come to your website and they might see an ad here by an advertiser. They'll click on that, go off to the advertiser's website, and as a result of that, let's say Google then charges this advertiser, say $1 per click, then they may send 60 cents as an example, depends what the commission they're paying. They usually pay majority of it to the advertisers. They're very generous. That's why they've got a very successful model, because they now have advertising making money. Then they're allowed to run more, they'll get more ads shown everywhere, and you say get 60 cents a click. So every time someone clicks on, you're making money. Who likes the idea of that? Okay? There is many people in the world today, that's all they do, and they make a full-time income from that. But if you're only making $500 a month, $1,000 a month, or what if you had a website, you're only making $100 a month, but you have 10 websites? 10 times 100 is $1,000 a month passive income, or semi-passive. What's that worth to you? Now you start to see, once you get the recipe, you can roll that out. Okay, and that's what my friend did. He rolled that out in a very big way. So there's many ways. Some of the speakers will go in and show you some of these different methodologies in some detail how they did that. Okay, who's starting to get excited?